Welcome back. This is Reverend Jon Turner. We are in the course, What Siddhartha Realized. And we just talked about everything is process for lecture number 3. And now we're moving into the philosophy of practice. And we could also call it the practice of philosophy. So philosophy in Buddhism isn't ideas or assertions that are debated. The philosophy is one of practice. We practice to realize the philosophy. The only philosophy is everything is process, which is basically a statement. So Buddhism is not philosophical in that sense. It's not trying to describe the universe. It's trying to describe a path and a practice for us so we can live a life of process. And when we do that, we no longer suffer. So we're going to go over some of the main schools that developed after the Buddha died. I've studied these. Most people in the West that are new to Buddhism, they call it you dive in head first. You're very academic and you read a lot of books. And some of this is a Protestant bias that truth is found in texts, not in ritual or in practice. So we have to kind of shift our thinking. You can read these books forever. It sometimes even Buddhism, I think, gets a little over philosophical. And a lot of times I've read, a lot of times the philosophy is actually the product or the result of practice. So Buddhists would practice meditation and realize process. They would chant and realize no self. They would bow and feel interdependent. And so the philosophy, I would argue, came after the realization through practice. So we don't want to get the cart before the horse or vice versa. Philosophy is skill and means, as we've covered previously. It's meant to help us have a realization and change the way we live and to develop a character in which we can do what is appropriate in the moment. So the first thing we're going to look at is a list of kind of like the major philosophical schools in Buddhism. And this is a little bit confusing too, because different schools, different practice schools will base their practice on one of these 4 philosophical underpinnings or foundation. So the Jodo Shinshu, Shin Buddhist tradition, is likely influenced a lot by number 3. And somewhat by 2 and 4, and also by number 1, but mainly it's believed that it's this consciousness-only school that Pure Land Buddhism bases its practice upon. There were some Buddhist schools that were highly philosophical, and there's also schools that are very practice-oriented. It seems that the practice-oriented schools did a better job at surviving because they were relevant to people and they offered a practice that was transformative. The philosophical schools often died out. They were too erudite. You had to be a scholar. You had to read multiple languages. It became like your field or your occupation was to learn and debate and read these texts. So in the Jodo Shinshu tradition, Shin Buddhist tradition, Pure Land tradition, we try to take what's valuable out of these philosophical schools in terms of how it applies to our life every day, and thus the name Everyday Buddhist.